Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. I do have a little bit of a raspy voice. It is what it is. I don't know, I feel fine. Um, we're going to do our daily technical analysis. I'll give you my financial opinion, and I'll let you know what I see in the charts. What I see is looking pretty good, so we'll get into it, and I'll kind of dive into the charts and let you know what I think. So on a daily candlestick basis, Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, it looks fine. It looks good, and it looks like we're going to head higher. So it looks very strong. We finished strong today. We have two hammer patterns next to each other. So that looks really good. Looking at URNM, and the reason I was like, what the heck happened yesterday, is usually when you get to the end over in this side over here, you start seeing a different mix of candlesticks. You start seeing large up days, smaller down days. Something like these small down days here. And you got this massive down day yesterday where I was like, what the heck is this? Because and the I mean, whenever you see these large down days like this, that usually means the selling pressure is great, especially if you got the volume with it like it does, that you may head lower. And I mean, we've got a hammer pattern here next to it, and sometimes some flukes where someone dumps URNM all in one day or something, and maybe something happens like that. Difficult to say. But I don't like seeing the big dump off day because you see it on pullbacks. You see one here, you see another one here, you see it here and here, and these guys, and you'll start seeing the up days shrink in size. The actual opening and closing price, the body of the candlestick, shrinks. So you get a big move there, a smaller move there, a smaller move there, a smaller move there, and then it goes down. You're running out of buying pressure. And sometimes they're not legit when it's over here because you're kind of trying to put in a bottom, but sometimes you go into a continuation channel, this pops up and you kick to the downside. So I don't know how that's possible with Kazakhstan and all these other things out there. We've got a bullish hammer pattern next to it, so we'll see what next trading day brings us. But that's where I'm at, and we're right at support underneath it. So, but most of the time, you see increased buying pressure. So if you look at this last pullback here, you've got these two big up days, small pullback, big up day, small pullback, big up day, small pullback, big up day, and then it rolls. That's what I am used to seeing on these. And if you look on this hand side over here, we've got some big down days still. I'm like, what the heck's going on? So we'll see what happens, guys. We've got a battle going on between the buyers and the sellers. That's for sure. Bannerman, Bannerman's looking, pretty good. If you look at that, the big update to small down day ratio, it looks good. So that one looks good. Goviax, again, we got that yesterday's sell-off where I'm like, what the heck happened? Because I was hoping to see a contraction, and you can kind of see this there a little bit where if you squeeze up into something, it could break to the downside. And you can kind of see it in some of these charts where they're coming up, they break to the downside. See how it's squeezing up a little bit, and then they run into a bearish engulfing pattern here, which says it may pull back a little bit more. Forces Metals, it's still hanging on. It still has a good buy to sell candlestick size ratio is what I'm going to call it. So it still looks good. Your point, uranium's got a little bit larger down day. Or that's an up day today. Sorry, it opened up, but opened up and closed less than it did. It's a black day, to be honest. Deep yellow, it still looks good. You see small down days, big up days. That's the characteristic of a stock that wants to go up. Paladin Energy looking okay. Everything looks all right up there. Nice, good bullish engulfing to start this move higher. Sky Harbor, just moving sideways. We're above resistance. I think that looks good. Next Gen Energy's looking, it looks okay. I don't like seeing these big down days like this, especially in a bearish engulfing format. This is a bearish piercing right there. Almost makes me think that it wants to go down, break to the downside, and do a pullback. We're hugging the lower end too of the channel. Just things that I'm noting, guys. Remember, it's just probabilities. Canalaska broke to the downside here. And I mean, we got a good bullish engulfing here. It's just the buyers and sellers are duking it out back and forth all over in these charts. Base load energy, I've got the cup and handle pattern on here that I drew in. It's probably just going to follow it. Vision 3.0 is looking okay. Nothing too bad there. Fission's looking okay. We broke to the upside here, and just the way the chart looks decent to me. Camco coming back a little bit. That's good. A little hammer pattern. Maybe we can get some traction to move up. Kazatomprom still, we've got support here. It's just holding on. We'll see what happens. Peninsula Energy chopping sideways. We've got the good big up day candlesticks, these two there that are coming in. So that looks good. Boss Energy just chopping sideways. Lotus Resources, we're above the breakout, doing a back test. This one looks good to enter. Uroy, we've got these wicks on the bottom. There's buyers down here. There's a lot of support. Hopefully that support can hold where we can start moving on up. Encore Energy's holding the line, so that looks good at the moment. Energy Fuels with a little bit of a rocket ship hammer pattern, so to speak. URG, I mean, this is looking good. We get this down day here, that one, and then we match it with an up day. So this is like the equal buyers and sellers. They're just duking it out. So that looks not, it doesn't look bad. And this one's a bullish piercing pattern where it's saying that this support is holding and it's coming back up for UEC. So that looks good. And LEU's looking good. It looks like the buyers responded to the selling pressure yesterday. One thing I'm kind of seeing is you get this like pattern here, and it's coming from the down, coming down. So sometimes these result in a lower move. Sometimes. We've got Light Bridge here. Again, it looks like we're squeezing up here. We're going to go somewhere fast. And the way that I mean, this did enter from the top down. What that would be is a flag pattern to actually move potentially lower, which is weird. But again, guys, I'm going to keep an open mind and see where this thing goes. We have resistance right underneath it. ISO Energy. Man, it's like we try to break and this thing just sells off. And here's your flag with a flag pattern, which would resolve itself downward. That's what I'm seeing, but I don't know if that's going to do it. And I'm not doing anything with this, guys. I'm just holding on. Appia Energy. See, these are all coiling up to go somewhere, guys. They're all coiling up. And we entered from the top down. So usually if it's something that's sideways, it's a continuation pattern of what it was happening before. Denison Mines. See, what I don't like here is every time we try to go up, we get these fat down days. And they're big. which usually results lower. But I don't know if it's something with those days in the news released that it threw a false signal. That's where the technical analysis gets really tough to read sometimes. Blue sky uranium, yeah, it's hugging the lower support line, the long-term support line here. We've got Forum Energy Metals. That one's looking good today. Big old hammer pattern. AEC chopping sideways. Laramide chopping sideways. Western Uranium, whenever this tilts upward like this, it's usually a bearish signal to break to the downside. We'll see what happens. UEXCF, we'll see what happens here too. These big bearish engulfing type patterns where we try to run and then they reverse quite hard, meaning the sellers are out there. So there's Mega Uranium. It's just right at chopping sideways on its long-term support line going across for Mega Uranium. So, you know, I want to be as bullish as everyone else, and you would think that this would go far higher with the Kazakhs basically duking it out, but I'm seeing these big bearish candlesticks in gold and silver. I'm seeing it here in uranium. I don't see it in the oil and gas sector. So this is where it gets tough, because when you see sectors split like this, what I usually do is I do nothing. I just hold on. And I mean, some of the uranium companies look good. Some of them, they got these big bearish things. Some of them have ascending wedges, which is usually bearish. But sometimes they can be bullish if you break to the upside. So, you know, we could be in a consolidation period for uranium. Like, I can kind of show you guys what I mean by that. If you take a long-term perspective outlook on this, and you kind of look at the movement here, sometimes they consolidate, they come up, they go into a final corner. And if this is on a weekly basis, and what I mean is you get these big down candlesticks here, and the buying pressure isn't as big as these big candlesticks, which sometimes resolve lower. And that's what I'm seeing. But it doesn't mean that this can't return, you know, turn and just move on a dime higher. Because we are at a point where it did consolidate down, and we almost have this like pattern, megaphone pattern, like it doesn't know which way it wants to go. A lot of confusion out there. This move was started with a big selling pressure day, same with this one. And it pulled back and then broke out of the pattern and launched higher. This one, you have the big buying pressure day and the small selling pressure. This is what I'm used to seeing. The big buying pressure, small selling pressure, squeezed up, came back, squeezed up, came back. So I'm just noting things for everyone. And obviously I don't have a crystal ball. All I can do is see what the buyers and sellers, what footprint they left. And I don't like seeing, when you come down to a bottom, big selling pressure days. You don't normally see that. And I'm seeing it in gold still too. So, I mean, I don't know if there's something coming, like a piece of news, or if someone knows something's coming. Because what you'll do is you'll see it in the charts, and if someone's going to offload something because something's coming, let's say they've got insider information like a bank, I can see it in the patterns before something happens, before the news happens. I'm just wondering if this is that case. Now, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to hold on to my shares. I don't see any reason to sell because your valuations are good. I'm just going to ride through whatever does come, if something does come. But oil looks pretty good, which is in the energy sector. So let's see if we can pull higher. And the Sprott Uranium Trust looks good too. If we were to revisit that, that looks very good from a buying pressure perspective, which basically, I mean, this is the weekly candlestick. It's a big breakout. It looks fantastic. what that does is just leaves me more confused on this direction, because if you have a large move up in the Sprott Uranium Trust like this, you get the big buying pressure coming behind it. I mean, you would think that URNM and all these other um, areas would follow suit. But what I don't like is this one week here, that big down week, which engulfs the ones before it. Usually, this wants to go down, but we've got downward momentum, sideways momentum, and usually this is your chance to go higher. And sometimes they throw false signals. This could be a false signal where I've got this drawn there. So, I'm not going to do anything. I already bought a lot in this sector. I'm just going to ride it, whatever happens. But that's what I notice in the charts. And if we see some momentum to the upside, that's great. I think that's going to be good. I mean, Sprott looks really good. Some of the companies, they do exhibit on a bigger term scale ascending wedges. Like if you look at next gens, and I know I'm kind of going through this, guys, or maybe it's not next gen, maybe it's a fission. I think it's fission. I mean, this is an ascending wedge. Usually that resolves itself lower. And you can see some ascending wedges, like Blue Sky Uranium has one. That's an ascending wedge. But sometimes they break to the upside of these ascending wedges and they really just absolutely move quite dramatically. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of days. But you can see that there's signals in there that are getting mixed. I'm watching gold and silver. That's getting hit to the downside with these big selling pressure days. And oil looks okay. So, I mean, this is like a mixed bag. And this is the hardest time to read things, is when you have conflicting data. So we'll see what happens, guys. If you guys like this content, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.